section 10. And before we read section 10, let's just recap. So Commodus is assassinated. And then after Commodus was assassinated, we had Pertinax, and Pertinax was the next emperor. And he was a really good emperor for a few months. And then after he dies, that's when we had this new emperor, Julianus, buy the power. And then after Julianus bought the power, then we had the emperor Niger in Antioch, and he's now taking over. And then besides Emperor Niger, now we got Severus, and Severus is now our fifth emperor that we have on the picture on the table and in the picture. So that's what's going on. We have 5 emperors all back to back. And here we go, starting with section 10 of Herodian, book 2. After he had paid court by correspondence to all the members of the Illyrian provinces and their governors, Severus won them over to his side. Once all the troops had been gathered together from the different areas, he assumed the name of Severus Pertinax, an act calculated not simply to please the Illyrian troops, but in the hope of popular Roman approval, also by reviving the memory of Pertinax. Then he ordered all the soldiers out onto the parade ground, and from a platform which had been set up for him, he addressed them as follows. You have already demonstrated your loyalty, your veneration for the gods, of your oaths, and your honor for the emperors, whom you respect by the indignation you feel at the effrontery of the city troops. They are suitable as ceremonial attendants, but no use to assist to deeds of bravery. I too am bound by a vow, though I never before entertained such hopes, and you know my loyalty to the emperors, a vow to see this business to its conclusion, to achieve what you desire, and not to abandon the Roman Empire as it lies in ruins. This empire was ruled with dignity up through the reign of Marcus, and was looked upon with awe. Under Commodus, it changed, but even if he did make some mistakes because of his youthful inexperience, they were obscured by his noble birth and the reputation of his father. His errors were more a matter of sorrow than for anger, since we attributed most of the misfortunes not to him, but to his sycophants and the attendants who encouraged him in his corrupt ways. But when the empire devolved on a respected elderly man, the memory of whose courage and integrity is even now instilled into our hearts, the guards could not tolerate him and got rid of this fine person by murdering him. And now, as you know, this great empire, which stretches over land and sea, has been shamefully purchased by a man who is hated by the people and no longer trusted by the soldiers of the city, whom he has deceived. But even if they were prepared to fight for him because they supported him, you have the advantage of superior numbers and individual bravery. You are highly trained in battle by constant wars against the barbarians. You are used to enduring all kinds of hardship, ignoring heat and cold, crossing frozen rivers. You are used to digging for your own drinking water, not drawing it from a well, and you are practiced hunters. All in all, you are so magnificently equipped to demonstrate your courage that no one, even if they wanted to, could withstand you. The test of soldiers is their endurance, not a life of luxury. But the guards in Rome have become increasingly intoxicated with this life, and now they could not even resist your battle cry, let alone your attack. If some of you are worried about events in Syria, you can take as evidence of their weakness and the slenderness of their hopes the fact that they have not dared to leave their territory and have not even had the courage to make plans to leave Rome. They are content to remain where they are, believing that the ability to lead their daily life of luxury is their gain from the empire, which is still so disturbed. It is elegant, witty remarks that the Syrians are good at, particularly the people of Antioch. These are the people who are reported to be enthusiastic supporters of Niger. The other territories and cities have so far found no one who would be worthy of the empire, and so in default of a man who can rule courageously and administer sensibly, they're obviously pretending to support Niger. But if they learn of the choice of the Illyrian army and hear that my name has been put forward, a name which they know, and of some distinction because of my achievement as a lieutenant when I was in charge of the administration there, you may be sure that they will not find fault with me for negligence or inefficiency, nor will they choose to oppose the weight of a crack fighting force like yours when they are so inferior physically and in endurance training and hand-to-hand combat. Let us be the first to take Rome, the very seat of the empire. Starting from there, we shall easily control the rest of the world by putting our faith in divine predictions and in the strength of your weapons and your bodies. After this speech, the soldiers cheered Severus, calling him Augustus and Pertinax and giving a demonstration of their complete enthusiasm for his cause. Section 11. Without allowing them a chance to delay, Severus gave the order for each man to equip himself with as little as he could and announced the departure for Rome. Money and supplies for the march were distributed before he set out on the journey. He hurried along the march, straining with enthusiasm and tremendous effort, not stopping anywhere and giving no opportunity for rest apart from just long enough for the soldiers to get their breath back before taking to the road. He himself shared in their hardships, sleeping in a cheap tent and taking the same food and drink as he knew was available to everyone. He never displayed a especially luxurious imperial standard of living. As a result, he increased his popularity with his fellow soldiers. They carried out all their tasks enthusiastically because they respected his personal participation in all their labors and the lead he took in their hardships. After passing through Pannonia, Severus arrived at the Italian frontier before any news had reached them and presented himself to the inhabitants as emperor before they had even heard that he was coming. The invasion of so large an army terrified the Italian cities when they heard the news, since the inhabitants of Italy had long ago abandoned armed warfare in favor of the peaceful occupation of farming. During the days of the Republic, when the Senate appointed army commanders to their posts, all Italians used to bear arms and gained control of lands and seas in wars against Greeks and barbarians. There was no corner of earth or region in the world where the Romans did not extend their sway. But when Augustus established his sole role, he relieved Italians of their duties and stripped them of their arms. In their place, he established a defense system of camps for the empire, and in which were stationed mercenary troops on fixed rates of pay to act as a barricade for the Roman Empire. He also fortified the empire by hedging it around with major obstacles, rivers and trenches and mountains and deserted areas which were difficult to traverse. When, therefore, the Italians now heard the news of Severus's approach with a large army, they were naturally panic-shaken at such an unusual event. Not daring to offer any opposition in his way, they they went to meet him with garlands of laurels and opened wide their gates to admit him. But Severus only delayed long enough to obtain favorable signs from his sacrifices and to address the people of the city before hurrying on to Rome. When Julianus received news of this, he was reduced to a state of utter desperation. He knew of the size of the power of the Illyrian army, but could put no faith in the people who hated him, nor the guards whom he had tricked. He did actually make a collection of funds from all his own and his friends' private fortunes and whatever there was in the public and temple treasuries. But when he tried to make a distribution of this to the soldiers in the hopes of gaining their favor, they accepted this large donative but felt under no obligation to him. In their opinion, he was only paying off a debt rather than distributing largesse. Julianus's conciliars advised him to march the troops out and capture the Alpine passes. The Alps are a very high range of mountains, far bigger than anything in our part of the world, and act as a barricade for the protection of Italy. This is another of the advantages which nature has given to Italy, an impregnable barrier cast up in their land as a fortification and running from the northern and southern coasts. Julianus, however, did not dare to advance from the city. Instead, he issued orders to the soldiers to arm themselves and get into training and dig ditches in front of the city. He also made preparations as though he were going to fight Severus in the streets of Rome. He began to train all the elephants, which were used by the Romans for processions, to carry men and turrets on their backs, in the belief that the appearance and size of these animals, which the Illyrians had not seen before, would terrify them and throw the enemy cavalry into confusion. So at this time, the whole city was producing weapons and making ready for war. And that is the end of section 11. And so we will move on to section 12 in the next stream and hopefully learn more about these elephants in the battle.